you doing? I'm Oslee Hawkins. I'm a long-term resident of Point Breeze, and we're out here today in Wharton Square Park with Isaiah Thomas. Thanks for being out here with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And I'm Erica Coleman. I've been in Point Breeze for 2 years.
Thank you, Erica. I appreciate it.
Erica and I are members of the Point Breeze Organizing Committee, an organization made up of new and long-term residents fighting against economic inequality. So tell us a bit about yourself, Isaiah.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Isaiah Thomas. I actually am a lifelong resident in the city of Philadelphia, born and raised in the northwest section of the city. Currently, I'm an adjunct professor at Lincoln University, where I teach a few courses there. I'm also Associate Dean and Athletic Director at St. Cofer Freedom Academy. Being an athletic director, I also represent PIAA District 12, Catholic, public, and charter schools. I also serve as the president of the Coaches Association for Philadelphia Public League Basketball, and I sit on the board of a number of organizations across the city of Philadelphia that really focuses on grassroots mentoring with our young people, as well as economic development.
Great. It sounds like you're deeply rooted in the community.
Yes.
So 3 years ago, you made a decision to run for city council. Could you talk to us a little bit more about what went into making that decision to run?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, I have an extensive background working with youth and young adults in non-traditional school settings as well as traditional school settings. So prior to being in traditional school settings, my work in non-traditional school settings put me in a position where as though I was able to meet some state legislators. One in particular is a guy named Tony Payton Jr., who I actually eventually became an employee of. And I did a lot of work organizing and doing grassroots initiatives in the Frankfurt section of the city. And Tony, as well as the constituents in the area, really recognized the impact that I was having, not just on young people, but the community in general. And it was presented to me to try to implement a lot of my ideas and my initiatives and my leadership style on a citywide level, because folks felt like if I could make a difference in a small pocket of the city, imagine what I would be able to do on a large scale. So just contemplating that, I decided to actually run for city council at large. I also understood that it was a huge hurdle, but I wanted to put myself in a position where I can really make a difference. And I wanted to look at the situation and say, I didn't want to have any regrets. I knew it would be, again, a huge obstacle, but I decided to throw my name in the hat and try to position myself where I can say, hey, listen, I'm a guy that's fighting for change.
I've been living in Point Breeze my whole life, and mass incarceration has been affecting me my whole life. I have an older brother who is incarcerated, as well as cousins, and even my father, he's been incarcerated. And I feel like daily, I'm under the threat of being incarcerated. So I wanted to ask you, Isaiah, what do you think about that? And what do you think we should do about mass incarceration?
Well, first and foremost, I empathize with you. I understand the threat of mass incarceration. I know what it means to be unjustly stopped and frisked. I know what it means myself personally, to be put in the back of a police car, to be handcuffed, to be stopped and frisked, to feel like your rights are violated, to be unjustly and inaccurately accused of something that you essentially didn't have anything to do with. You just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. A lot of folks have coined mass incarceration as the new Jim Crow, and that's something that I believe 100%. Mass incarceration is the most important issue of our time. And I feel like it's very important that we destroy this narrative that black males are not an asset. Black males are an asset. I'm actually a recipient of the Be Me Award, which actually promotes this idea of black males being an asset, not just in the city of Philadelphia, but actually across the country. I also recognize the correlation between mass incarceration and the lack of quality education that we provide our young people. The interesting thing about our country is that we have a number of resources, not just in urban communities, but in communities across the country. And the only thing that we can guarantee our children is a prison cell when they do something wrong. And that essentially shows how we have put an emphasis on this concept of incarcerating young people. So for me, I want to do everything in my power to essentially end the institution of mass incarceration, because people are getting arrested at more of a higher rate now than any other time in the history of the existence of our country.
Thank you for pointing out the correlation between public education and mass incarceration. I definitely like to take a walk to Smith School, which was one of the 23 schools that closed in Philadelphia last year.
Sure.
As I was saying, we're standing in front of Smith School, which was one of the 23 schools that was closed last year in Philadelphia. What do you think that we should be doing to combat the school closings?
Yeah, I mean, looking at Smith School closed is something that I think is just terrible. And it's something that I care passionately about. As I mentioned before, I'm a product of public schools. All my brothers and sisters went to public schools. My dad is a retired teacher from the school district of Philadelphia. And I really, truly understand the importance of a quality education. to the young people who reside in this area. So for me, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to make sure we come out and vote in November. And once we begin to vote, we can essentially hold our elected officials accountable and make sure that we vote for people who have public education at the top of their agenda.
Thank you for being out here, Isaiah. It's been a pleasure getting to know you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the work you do as far as with the Point Breeze Organizing Committee and what you do for the people in the Point Breeze section of the city of Philadelphia. It's phenomenal. So thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.